YouTube Ozic going the Goat House is back. Getting ready for the Combine here in this video with my 10 best players before the Combine starts. Obviously, things can change. We'll talk about guys that just missed the cut. We will talk about my favorite players, kind of the guys I'm higher on than most right now at this early stage. And then players to watch at the Combine, guys that could really be workout warriors, perform at a high level there. Maybe their stock could go up. We'll have winners and losers throughout each day of the Combine, and then we'll have an updated mock draft 2 rounds after the Combine. So join us almost at 100K. Appreciate you guys' support very much. Links pinned in the comments for anything you're looking for. So top 10 players. We're not doing them in order yet. We'll have all my prospect rankings, my big board when the time is right. You know, they kind of make sure I get everything right, all the film done and everything before I do that. But top 10 players before the Combine. Here are the offensive players that made the list. And as you can see, there's 8. There are 8 offensive players in the top 10, so it is a offensive draft, especially at the top. So see some receivers, Malik Neighbors, who is in contention for receiver 1 because he's a do-it-all type guy. You can put him in a slot outside. He can run any route. He can get separation. He's insane after the catch. The acceleration is absurd. Just big playability. I think it's a very safe pick. You're going to get a good ball player that you're just going to want to get the ball in his hands. And Marvin Harrison Jr., who we talk about Malik Neighbors being a do-it-all guy. I think Malik Neighbors is more of that guy than Marvin Harrison Jr., but Marvin Harrison Jr., I think, is a smarter football player, smarter receiver when it comes to, I guess, specifically running routes, reading coverages, and that's how he gets his separation. But very long, has, you know, the ideal size, what the elite receiver size used to be. And then, incredible hands as well. And then Roma Dunze, who had a monster season as well, another elite prospect at receiver position, who seemed to make the big play in the biggest moments. That was the best thing about him all year, and just seemed like Washington's most valuable player, and that was the second best team in college football this year. We'll talk about him a little bit more in a little bit here in this video. And then you have the quarterback. So not only is it 8 offensive players in the top 10, there is 6 between 2 different positions, receivers and quarterbacks. So Caleb Williams, and the question with him will be maybe his character. The interviews at the Combine with teams will be huge. Is he a little undersized? So the measurables will be pretty damn big as well. Drake May, the issue with him is playing hero ball a bit, but crazy arm, prototypical size, big playability. And then Jaden Daniels, who was the best player in college football this year with his big playability, improving every step of the way going to the SEC, could use his legs really well as well. Brock Bowers, one of the better tight end prospects we've seen in a bit. Another guy that really, could play like a receiver or can be that physical part like the tight end as well. Crazy after the catch, strong comparisons to George Kittle for a reason. And then Joe Alt from Notre Dame. Him and J.C. Latham are my top tackles and just missed the top 10 and could even sneak into the top 10 when it's all set for me heading into the draft. We have J.C. Latham down there, who maybe like today, maybe a little bit better than Joe Alt, but I see insane upside when it comes to Joe Alt, and he already has really solid tape, but high school played tight end, defensive end, switched to tackle, going to Notre Dame. That's pretty big when it comes to the offensive lineman, and played obviously very well. I think a pretty balanced type tackle too. Pretty good athleticism, quick footwork, good length. I guess he's strong. Could get stronger. I think he will. Again, a lot of upside when it comes to Joe Alt. And Latham right now feels like my number 11 player. He's in the 11-12 range. Could definitely get into the top 10. So those are the offensive players in my top 10. Again, the receivers are ridiculous. They're elite receivers, and it's not really a sure thing that Marvin Harrison Jr. be number 1. And for quarterbacks, as you know, I've been a big Drake May guy. A lot of people are not, it feels like right now. It's a guy that I think could struggle with turnovers early on, but it's a guy that I expect to kind of figure it out and has elite potential. At least Pro Bowl potential at that level. And then so that means there's only two left here for defensive players. I have Byron Murphy the second in my top 10. Most people do not. People are starting to catch on with him, but he's actually my highest rated defensive player in the draft. I guess the reason against that is, he's a little undersized because his play style, you wish, he's over 300 pounds, obviously. His play style, you wish he was a little bit heavier maybe, and you wish he was mainly a little bit longer. Listed at 6'1", could he measure in at shorter than that? Sometimes that happens. So The arm length's going to be huge when it comes to the measurables because it's big for the defensive linemen because how freaky the offensive linemen are these days. So that's maybe why people are a little hesitant, but I love the tape. Absolutely dominant. Backfield production, really solid stopping to run. Good. Really solid getting after the quarterback. Has multiple pass rush moves in his in his play style. So that's fantastic for him. And Dallas Turner just makes the cut. Freak athlete, very productive. And lengthy as well. We'll see him. We'll talk about him more in this video too. I think he'll show out at the combine a little bit. So he just makes the cut. Another Alabama guy just missing the cut. Terrion Arnold, who is my top corner, been my top corner for a bit. I think if you want him to play outside, I think he'd be tremendous. If you want him to play inside the slot, I think he'll be tremendous. We see Witherspoon with the Seahawks, they kind of played him where they needed him the most, mainly outside. Obviously, you want, if you're going to draft a corner super high, you mainly want him to play outside. Arnold will do that, but with Witherspoon, they kind of used him in the most important spot at that given situation. I think Arnold could be a guy like that. And yeah, he's 11 or 12 right now. A couple Bama guys. Turner's my 10th ranked guy, and you got Latham and Arnold right after that. So 3 Bama guys in a row. And any of those guys can sneak in or drop out just of the top 10. But you kind of get an idea going into the combine and before we're done fully watching the film here. And we still got pro days and the interviews. Everything will matter as well. And then Chop Robinson, who I'm a big fan of. Explosive, twitchy pass rusher. What he's lacking, really what it is production. If he had decent production, he has 6 career sacks. That's pretty low. It's pretty damn low, and it's a little scary. But if he had 6 sacks on the year and maybe like 10 career sacks, I think it'd be a whole different story with the media, everyone talking about him. People talking about him like pass rusher number 4, 5, 6 around there, probably 4 or 5. I'm gonna be a little bit higher on him. We'll talk about him more in a second too. But as you can tell, I'm pretty, closer to the top 10 is kind of high praise. I think he has a lot of potential. Just so explosive off the ball. More of an impact in the stats will show. Penn State had him dropping in coverage a little bit. And Leatu Latu, who is he just makes plays. Like this guy gets the job done. He makes crazy plays. Not just getting sacks, but getting his hands on the ball, dropping in coverage as well. Is he going to be the fastest guy? Is he going to be the longest guy? Probably not, but he's not awful in those categories, probably, and we'll see. But we already measured it at the Senior Bowl. But he makes plays. It's a guy that just makes plays. So there's some pass rushers kind of in the same boat. And then guys that are, and this could change. We do my guys list right before the draft, but there's usually ends up being some pretty good guys in that list every year. But my favorite prospects right now, again, still a lot of film to watch. We still got the combine and pro day, but it seems like I'm higher on some of the guys we already talked about. Chop Robinson. I love when I see pass rushers with that explosive get off that you just cannot coach, and he has an elite NFL get off in my opinion. It should be everyone's opinion. It doesn't mean he's an elite NFL player already. That's not really what I'm saying, but a lot to work with there. I think his best football is definitely ahead of him. And then Byron Murphy, for me to have him, a lot of people don't even have number 1 interior defensive lineman, but for me to have him at the top of the defensive players list, so obviously he's up there for me. A couple Washington guys, Troy Fatanu. Really solid year for Washington at left tackle. Just a guy growing on me. The more and more I watched him, and I'm kind of thinking about what I've watched, and I think he could be a very solid guard too. But I do like him at tackle. Keep him there if it's working out for him. But I think worst case, he's a really solid guard. Just really like his play style. Then Jalen Polk, another Washington receiver. Talk about Rome Odunze, you have Jalen McMillan as well. But Polk, I'm surprised. He was being talked about a bit during the year. Everyone was talking about those receivers. I know mainly Odunze, and it kind of got quiet all of a sudden. It's just Odunze. I know he's way better than these other guys like Polk, but Polk's really solid. He's a guy that was productive, made big plays. He had great hands. He went up and caught the ball. He could high point the ball. And then I thought he played very well against zone coverage. He really could separate and read coverages, I thought. So I don't want to overthink things. Is he the fastest guy in the world? Maybe not, and he's definitely not slow. Does he constantly have separation? No. I know that's what you're looking for with the first round guys, but it's a guy that can catch the ball. I thought he's a pretty smart receiver, did well against zone. That's really big for the NFL, so can't really overthink things there. I think he's better than what people are talking about. The way I think he was kind of being talked about like second round, like during the year, but now it's like he's not even on close to that radar with people right now, and I'm really confused why. People almost talking like fourth or fifth round at this point, and I don't think he's gonna light up the combine or anything, so that it's probably gonna stay that way. But I think he's pretty good. I would look at him on day 2. And then Javon Baker, who actually was a former Alabama receiver, starting to make sense a little bit. He's at Alabama for a reason, and he lights it up at Central Florida. I mean, here's a guy that's got good length, got good hands, and he separates. He gets open and makes big plays. It's another one where it's like, all right, it's kind of a total package guy, but he doesn't have like the elite flashiness as the top guys in the first round. So, but let's not overthink it. It could be a good guy to get on day 2. And then a couple North Carolina guys. We got a couple Washington guys, a couple North Carolina guys, a couple Notre Dame guys. But Drake May, you guys know I like Drake May. I've liked him for a long time. This is the first time I saw him play. And then Cedric Gray, the North Carolina linebacker, is a contender for my top linebacker in the class, which people have him like top 5 linebacker. Maybe I haven't really heard about him being talked about number 1. Edgerrin Cooper, maybe the leader in that category right now. But Gray is pretty solid. He seems to be good in coverage. He knows how to read the quarterback, make a play on the ball. And he's pretty rangy. He's really good at getting across the field if he needs to. Marshawn Lloyd from USC. He's a tough one when it comes to the rankings. I'm not doing the full prospect rankings yet, but I always do when the time is right. But he's tough because you're talking about just strictly running ability, like how talented he is as a runner. He's legit. Like, he is a top 2, I would actually say, runner in this running back class. He's that good of a runner, good vision, explosive, really good. After the hole, making people miss, can catch the ball, can run after the catch, a big playability. I think a good combination of just physicality and athleticism as well. Top 2 in that category. He does have a little bit of a fumbling issue, though, so that knocks him down a little bit. So I hope he can work out the fumbles. Some guys do, and some guys stay the same. They don't. So, but if you take away, which we can't, we got to factor it in when we're evaluating these guys. But if you take away the fumbling issues, he's a top 2 running back in this class. I don't really hear people talking about that right now. And Audric Estime I like from Notre Dame because a guy like that size, like that physical, his ability to break tackles, like usually those types of guys, that's them. That's it. But he can move like he's a lot, smaller, more athletic than you think. Well, I'm saying he's more athletic than you think, but he moves kind of like a smaller guy sometimes. He's not the speediest guy in the world. I don't know what his 40 time is going to be. It's going to be pretty big for him, but I mean, we see him jump over. We already know he runs through guys, but you see him jump over guys. You see him, accelerate and run past guys. Doesn't get enough credit in that category. So guys that are that big, that physical, really aren't supposed to move like that. And then Cam Hart, other Notre Dame guy, he looked really good at the Senior Bowl. I'm surprised the lack of talk. I started to get a little more talk after the Senior Bowl, but I've talked about it before. Notre Dame, if you think Notre Dame defensive backs, corner, you think of Benjamin Morrison, who's going to be in the class next year. He's probably a first-round pick. Lockdown Marvin Harrison Jr. was excellent his true freshman year a year ago, too. So everyone thinks about him, but you forget to talk about Cam Hart. The teams this year actually threw to Benjamin Morrison more. They were afraid to throw at Cam Hart. He was locked down in coverage. He's super long, too. Super long, freak athlete as well. Just a lockdown guy. He's not afraid to come up and hit you as well. So I'm surprised that he's not being talked about more. And then Mason Smith, an interesting one from LSU. I kind of like Mekhi Wingo from LSU as well, but Mason Smith was a top-tier recruit a few years ago, went to LSU, dealt with an injury 2 years ago. This year we saw him. He didn't do a ton. He didn't do a ton this year. He's supposed to be not only a first-round pick going into this year, but a top 10 pick. I was pretty hyped on him before the year. Didn't do much, but if you watch LSU this year, these quarterbacks, 3-step drop, throw. I mean, wide open. The cornerback play was brutal, so not much action for the defensive linemen, really. I know Mekhi Wingo showed out in that first game, but Mason Smith is a freaky dude, like big, monstrous guy. I think he'll show out at the combine as well, kind of for his size, kind of freaky. He's going to stop the run on the inside. It's a big body guy that you want to work with. So people aren't talking about, like, people forgot about him at this point. I think he's still going to be a stud at the next level. It's going to be interesting to see where he goes. So there's going to be guys added to this list, probably removed this list as we go on. Still a lot of film to watch. But I put together a list of guys that, guys to watch, guys to get ready for, and there's probably more on this list, guys that are probably going to run fast 40s, but I think of guys that are going to multiple drills. Like, what are they going to show out across the board? The guys that I'm looking at here. And starting with Jalen Wright from Tennessee. He's going to fly. He accelerates past everyone on the field. He's a good running back, so I think he'd be a top 5 running back taken. There's a chance he's the first running back taken, to be honest. Jonathan Brooks, to me, is the best running back in the class, but he tore his ACL in November, can't work out. They're talking about being good by training camp, so that's tough, but he is the best runner in the class. Wright's pretty explosive, pretty impressive as well. So he's going to fly. He's going to show out in multiple drills. A couple of tackles. Tyler Guyton from Oklahoma, freaky dude. It's a upside tackle of this draft. He should test pretty well. And then Kingsley Suamataia from BYU, another guy that can move, and he's long too, super long, super athletic. So he should test pretty well. The Bama pass rushers are going to show out at the combine. They're definitely going to show out at the combine. Both starters from Alabama. Dallas Turner's the well-known guy. I mean, he's a freaky dude, but watch out for Chris Braswell. Absolute freak. I think he'll test and show that. And could he soar up the boards? Then kind of being talked about 2nd or 3rd round pick right now. So we'll see. Then Chop Robinson, I talk about his twitchiness, his explosiveness. The get off is ridiculous. I think he's going to show that this week. And then my guy Byron Murphy, another freaky dude, really explosive off the line. I pretty confident he'll test well as well. And then a list of receivers here. The receivers usually are freaky. Malik Neighbors we would put up here, but he is actually not going to do the test. I'm surprised by that. He doesn't really need to, but I thought he's going to go out there and run 4.3s and be a freak. So unfortunately, we don't see here. But the top 2 receivers we list, Roman Wilson, Roman Dunze. I mean, they're different in terms of talent levels. Roman Dunze is an elite prospect, but they're both kind of like do-it-all guys. They're very efficient catching the ball, make big plays. But people think they're athletic, but nobody ever puts freak athleticism together with these guys. And then especially with a Dunze, people talk about how much more of an athlete Neighbors is, but watch out for these guys to test better than you think. Everyone thinks they're going to test good. Everyone knows they're really good football players. They're going to test better than you think. Then you got another Washington receiver, Jalen McMillan. We ended up talking about all 3 of the top Washington receivers in this video, but Jalen McMillan can fly. He's undersized, but he can straight up fly. Troy Franklin, potential 1st round pick. From Oregon, obviously we know he's very speedy, and Xavier Worthy is definitely a speed demon too. So he should test very well. That's a candidate for the best 40. And then another receiver, Malachi Corley, who's an after the catch expert. If you watched some of his games, Western Kentucky, I can't believe how many screen passes they ran to this guy because what he can do after the catch, tough, fast, overall physical. We talk about Mason Smith. It's a tank-looking guy, a tank of a guy. I think he's a freak athlete for that size. It doesn't mean he's got to run 4, crazy 40. No, for his size. We talked about Cam Hart. This guy's super long, but he doesn't get enough credit for his athleticism. And Quinion Mitchell, who has been getting a lot of buzz from Toledo, especially after the Senior Bowl, I think he's going to test very well. He's kind of goes to his playmaking ability, knows how to jump in, give some space, bait quarterbacks, jump in front of the ball, make a big play. He's another guy that's probably, and everyone knows he's an athlete, but he's another guy that's more of a sneakier athlete than you think. I think he's going to test pretty well. So there's more guys in this. These are the guys that are legit prospects. They're going to, some of these guys maybe could go, some will go 1st round. Some could maybe try to look through the list. Some could go as low as the 4th or 5th round, I suppose. But kind of the more known guys, but that are going to test pretty well, guys to watch, guys could be winners. And then each day of the combine, we'll have our big winners and losers video, stock up, stock down. And then about a week from today, or maybe a little bit less, we will have our updated post-combine mock draft, which is always big as we get more information here. So, and then free agency starts, and we have you guys covered for that, all the grades and news, especially on our Twitter. So at a very fun, very exciting time of the year. So if you can join us, we are almost at 100K. I like to think we're going to get there during free agency here, which is coming up. That's huge. I'm excited. So if you can join us, appreciate you guys' support. Links pinned in the comments for what you're looking for, Twitter, and our sponsors, GLD Shop, Liquid IV, code GO. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.